We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk. Let's do a quick recording. It's Thursday today. I'm doing my laundry. It's raining. I'm in my car. I've got 40 minutes to kill. Why not? Let's whip up a quick Illusion Warfare report. And apologies, the audio is probably going to be really bad. I use one of them public laundrettes by a petrol station, so you're probably going to be hearing like trucks reversing and motorbikes revving their engines and whatnot. But anyway, you should be able to hear me, well enough. And yeah, I think the doing a 10-minute video every day is going down quite well. I'm getting a lot of good feedback. I think there's probably only about 1,000 people on this planet that actually get what I'm saying. So it will always be just that same 1,000 people that will be interested in my work. So yeah, it's working out very well. Hopefully you guys are not stuck in front of a computer screen all day, wasting your lives, gobbling up this chicken feed conspiracy nonsense. Hopefully you guys are getting out and about. I only do it in moments like this, when I've got a moment where I'm stuck in my car waiting for my laundry. That's it. Otherwise I'll be out and about. And to be honest, the only reason I'm still kind of carrying on is because I've got a Patreon and there's still about 130 quid coming in a month. And as long as there's money coming in, I'm going to consider this a job and a duty to carry on doing Illusion Warfare reports. Funnily enough, anyone that's a Patreon or was a Patreon might be aware that I released a statement the other day saying I would like people to drop off the Patreon because I'm not really giving anything new to the Patreon. There's no kind of exclusive content like there should be. There's not, as kind of a little bit of a lull right now in the podcasting situation, because there's only about 10 people that will do a podcast with me that have got the bollocks to do it, and I can't keep bugging them to have conversations with me. So it's better I just talk to myself and put it out there for free. Listen, if you still want to throw a coin into the hat on Patreon, go ahead, but I just want to be honest with people. There's no like exclusive content on there, and I don't like this kind of obligation I have to kind of make content. So yeah, funnily enough, I've had about 9 people drop off, which is good. That's what I asked for. I don't, and it still says I got 33 Patrons, which is, Patreon fucking with me there. The Black Cube is fucking with me. Anyone that goes onto my Patreon will see I've got 33 Patrons and, will obviously jump to a conclusion I'm a Freemason or something. And, I have to be honest, I was guilty of that. If you go back to my early tweets, I've only been on Twitter a year. I was very guilty of that. Every time I saw a 33 surrounding someone, I'd automatically say they're probably a Freemason, which now I've come a long way, and I think that's not quite the case. in my opinion, Freemasons, the vast majority of them, are just duds, you know. They're scarecrows. They're there to take all these slings and arrows of conspiracy, when most of them, a lot like people in the CIA, haven't got a fucking clue what the hell is going on. Yeah, Freemasons, most of them don't know nothing. This is cosplay. They're cosplay Freemasons. There probably are a very, very small number of real Freemasons that probably do have supernatural powers. There's probably only 33. That's the deal. There's only allowed to be 33 at a time. But your local lodge, or let's say the Freemason that's running the local newspaper or the local supermarket, these guys are clowns. They're basically losers that are just trying to use Freemasonry to have a bit of an edge in life because they couldn't really do it on their own, you know. Small dick kind of guys trying to stick together because they can't compete with Vikings out in the real world. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't think of anything worse than going to a place on, you know, every Thursday, dressing up with white gloves on and making dinner for people that are older than you and reading out of stupid bullshit books. But it's just cosplay masonry for you. Some people are really into it. Some people buy into it. And unfortunately, the conspiracy theory NPCs, they just gobble that chicken feed up, you know. But yeah, anyway. On to some relevant and news that's quite recent. So here's one I found quite interesting. The US is going to send Vietnam-era Hawk missiles over to Ukraine. Weirdly enough, they're not. I don't think they're actually in the US. I think they were in Spain. They were given to the Spanish military. They're not being used, so of course they're going to be palmed off to Ukraine, the junkyard of World War 33. Now, the whole purpose of World War 33 is, well, it's a massive illusion, and it's obviously a cover story for a reset of the Matrix. But anyway, to create the illusions of war, you've got to keep all of the people in that country and surrounding it busy, participating and believing in the war. And, you know, something like this, a Hawk missile system, you'd probably have to send, 20 US military guys over to train Ukrainians how to use the system, even though it's ridiculously old and out of date and going to be useless. So that right there is going to tie up, hundreds of people just in the training process and the delivery of getting the thing over there to Ukraine. That's going to keep them busy. And all the people that take part in the logistics and the training and the trainees, for them it's a real experience. Of course the war is real. I'm standing here right next to a Hawk missile system. Then once the training is complete, I'm going to assume the crew of a Hawk missile system is probably going to be about 8 to 12 men. You'll have the driver, the operator, the loader, the technician, the radio comms guy. And, that will keep them busy throughout this whole war. They will be constantly driving around this system, setting it up, packing it, unpacking it, moving to the next place. They'll obviously have a patrol going around it once they're set up. It all keeps these guys busy participating in the illusion of war, but to them it's real. They really are out in the mud. They really are next to a Hawk missile system. And at some point they will have to actually test fire it. You've got to understand, with all of these weapon systems, from the tank straight up to your sidearm and your rifle, they have to be fired, depending on what system it is. They have to be fired to make sure they still work. Weapons testing. They've got to calibrate. They've got to make sure it works. So when apparently the real situation comes, it works. So when you see news crews going up and filming like a tank firing rounds off into the yonder, that's what they have to do every morning. Every morning they'll have to get up and test fire their weapon systems. This is just day-to-day life in the military. Obviously, with something like your sidearm, your rifle, you'd have to test fire that a lot more than you would, say, a Hawk missile system. You can't just wing a Hawk missile straight up into the atmosphere. You've got to know where it's going to land. And it's obviously, the missiles are millions and whatnot. So yeah. But if you were living next to the so-called war zone, in brackets, sorry, in air quotes, you would hear every day, boom, 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 where they're test firing their rifles and their artillery guns, their field guns, their howitzers. They have to do every day. So yet again, it's a double hoax, isn't it? The soldiers are firing off their weapon systems to test them. So for them, the experience is real. They're really next to a howitzer and letting it off. For the local populace, they can really hear gunfire in the distance. So for them, it's real. Of course the war is real. I can hear howitzers going off in the distance. The enemy must be getting close. Of course, further on, there will be the opposing enemy doing the same thing. And they'll each be listening to each other, firing off their weapons, not knowing whether it's a test fire or incoming fire, but it all creates the illusions of war. Illusion weapons, my friends. That's why you're never ever going to see the UFOs and the lasers and the very high-tech weapons that they've got, because that's no good. How are you going to get people to participate in a grand illusion of a world war with weapons that would end the war immediately? If the City of London busted out their UFOs, not a single fucker in the world, even an NPC, would want to join the military. But what's the fucking point? What's the point of a howitzer when you've got a UFO that can just shoot out a laser and just vaporize me? You know? They have to keep up the... Another thing about this Ukraine war is it keeps up the whole... It reinforces this idea that warfare is clanky tanks and artillery guns and metal and trampling around in the mud. It reinforces that. It puts it in the minds of the masses. Hollywood is doing it psychologically. Ukraine is doing it physically, okay? Psychological operation, illusion operation. They go hand in hand. And very few amount of people are going, well, hang on. Haven't you had a black budget research and development thing going on for 60, 70 years with an unlimited budget? You're telling me the best you can do is make a tank every 30 years that's slightly better than the previous tank? It goes 5 miles an hour faster than the old tank? Get the fuck out of here. The video I watched from Forces News, which is a British military propaganda outlet, was showing us like really crappy old Vietnam footage, and the guy kind of jokingly says, well, we're not trying to emphasize how old it is, it's just the only footage we can get hold of. So there's a good chance these don't even exist. Or they're just kind of duds, they don't actually fire. You know, looking at the shape of this, right? Looking at this image here, that is a very easy weapon to make a fake of, a plastic version of. And of course, there will be soldiers that will be told to drive around the dummy versions as a crucial part of the war. Listen, Private Yuri, you've got the most important job of all. Deception. You've got to drive this fake Hawk missile system all around Ukraine because the enemy is secretly watching you. And you need to be seen driving around the Hawk missile system because they don't know it's not real. They think it's real. And you all have got the most important job of all, Yuri. You're in charge of deception. While your friends will be taking part in a real operation down the road, which solely relies on you, Yuri, being the deception artist. And that's what happens. And down the road, the guy's getting told the same thing. You know? Old Sergey, you're part of a deception operation. You've got to keep driving your tanks up and down, round and round, doing fucking donuts in the field. And every 7 hours, you've got to go fire into a distance as a show of force to scare the Russians. You can't see the Russians, but they're definitely there, Yuri. Sorry. I've forgotten who we said. Sergey. Private Sergey, there are definitely Russians over there. Believe me. They're just really good at hiding. But they're definitely over there. So you've got to drive your tank around, fire into the fields. Don't fire into that village over there where civilians, you kill people. Just keep firing in the fields because you are part of a deception campaign. You're going to keep the Russians busy over here while Yuri up the road there, he's got Hawk missile systems. He's going to lure out the Russian Air Force. He's going to blow them up. And that's it. They all get told they're part of a deception campaign. Or they get told they're part of a real campaign, and when nothing happens, their generals of staff will come up and say, oh, sorry guys, you were part of a deception campaign, but we couldn't tell you in case it got out, you know. Next one, Vladimir Putin watches first Russian nuclear drill since Ukraine war started, I'm guessing they're going to say. Yeah, so Russia, and here's the next one, NATO, they're both doing simulations and drills with nuclear strikes at the same time. That's always a red flag when they're doing drills, because they always combine the drill with the real situation, because it really fucks with the heads of the soldiers that are taking part. They don't know whether it's a drill or real or not, and that's how you kind of fool all of the soldiers that are participating in an illusion. And when they say, well, how come I never saw anything happen? No, you were in a drill. The guys over there had the real explosion, and then the guys over there, how come we never saw anything? What's going on? Oh, no, you were just a part of a drill. You know, it's mass confusion, and unfortunately, as I've said a million times before, the military, the intelligence services, they are getting played the most. They are the most clueless. They've got zero idea that they're getting played, you know, like puppets on a string. So yeah, nuclear bombs is a whole different video. You know, there's this big idea out there that nuclear bombs don't exist. I mean, maybe so. When people say nuclear bombs don't exist, I think what they're talking about is, you know, this Hollywood image we have in our head of, for me, it's Terminator 2, when Sarah Connor has a flashback, she has a premonition or a dream of a nuclear bomb going off in LA, and she's holding a gate, and everything's just getting vaporized, and her skin, her flesh gets ripped off from her body. And we're shown like a big ball of energy, like spreading out, melting everything as it goes. 50-mile radius. Okay, that's probably an illusion, yes. But the weapons they have are probably far deadlier. They've got ion lasers, Tesla tanks. They got some mad shit, okay? And for them to hoax, and of course big bombs, big explosives, for them to hoax and create the illusion of a nuclear weapon is very, very easy. To create a massive blinding white flash like that, it's a lot of phosphorus. But that's not hard to get hold of. They're using a lot of these phosphorus explosives across Ukraine. They're the ones that you see that just like a giant firework in the sky. I think magnesium works as well when it's activated in the right way, but it makes a very bright light, just dazzling from miles around. Very scary when you're told it's a bomb, but in reality it's just a giant firework. It's just a megaton firework. And yeah, it wouldn't be hard for them to hoax a nuclear bomb, is all I'm saying. Here's the next story from, again, Forces News, the British military propaganda outlet. Dirty bomb is not realistic way or weapon. Now, I didn't actually listen to this story, but I just that word, the dirty. Back in World War II, the guys that were in charge of deception, they were called A-Force. And they chose what we're told from the history books is that they had a really long name. It's something like Airborne Logistics and blah, blah. And I thought, okay, let's call ourselves A-Force. But I personally think A-Force was for Athena. Athena being the Greek goddess of military strategy. Anyway, their nickname was the Department of Dirty Tricks. Remember that, the Department of Dirty Tricks. So when I see dirty bomb, I straight away think of the Department of Dirty Tricks about to play a dirty trick on everyone. It's a dirty trick bomb. And then this is a video. We'll watch it. We'll go through this video. Abandoned Russian base holds secrets of Putin's military plans. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, again, classic World War II tactics. British intelligence tactics. They would often go around and purposely leave documents, maps, false information, purposely misinformation for the enemy to find. They would even go to the lengths of, they would dress up like a dead body in like a Royal Marines Commandos uniform and put a load of plans in his pockets and go dump him on a shore somewhere, knowing the enemy would pick him up, thinking that they found an amazing bit of evidence. Now, on a surface level, that sounds quite impressive, that the British are tricking their enemies. What you've got to understand is that the trick is on everyone. All sides are getting played. And again, one thing I want people to understand, and sorry if you're sick of me saying this, but it's all about getting people involved and participating and believing in the illusions of war. For the Ukrainians that arrived in this fake city and found all of these documents, for them it's real. And they're going to spend the next 6 months going through these bullshit documents that were just manufactured. Okay? This is what the special military operation's about. The Wagner Group, which is Putin's private army, are going around to these places and doing this. They'll go into a town, they'll set up in an abandoned area, they'll piss on the walls, they'll spray paint everything, they'll dot all of these plans around, they'll shell a few empty buildings and they'll fuck off. Then the Ukrainian clowns come in, they think they've discovered horrors of war, when really it's, metaphorically speaking, it's a movie set. And they have merely gone in and made it a wartime movie set with bombs, and they planted all their uniform, old boots around and old missile shells. They've gone and placed all their props around to make it look like a war zone, to convince the opposition who have got no idea they're partaking in an illusion. For them, it's all real. It's so, even my mind's blown how this is done, but it's so obvious when you think about it. And you've got to assume the same happened in World War II and I. And Afghanistan and Vietnam and the Korean War, the Northern Ireland conflict, Falklands, you name it. This same shit happened, in my opinion. Let's find this video. Where is it? There it is. Actually, you know what? This video here, I'm going to focus on in a separate video. So stay tuned for that. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.